I'm the Geordie Saver and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to talk through my 2023 mortgage overpayments. So now that we've gone through the full year, I've got all my figures put down in this spreadsheet and I'm going to talk through all the overpayments that we made on the mortgage and the impact that that had on our mortgage balance. So if you're new to my video, I have been overpaying alongside my partner. We've been overpaying our mortgage for a few years now, and we had a really successful 2022, and we ramped up our mortgage overpayments, and it continued in 2023, but it petered off a little bit. But what I'll do in this video is I'll show you exactly how much we overpaid by and the impact that it had on the final mortgage balance. So just before I go into the figures, I just want to flag, as always, that I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. I just track my own personal finance journey for entertainment purposes only, and nothing that I cover in these videos is meant to be treated as financial advice. So, for those who have been following my journey each month, I'm going to just to note that I'm going to go through quickly the first 11 months of figures and then I'll cover December figures, which no one's seen yet. So I'll try and be as quickly as possible on the first 11 months for those who've heard it before, but I thought it was important to just go through them for anyone who's clicking on this video for the first time. So started the balance was £117,185. My standard payment is £510 per month. That is because one, we have quite a small mortgage comparatively to other places in the UK because house prices are a lot lower in the northeast. And then two, we're lucky enough to fix on a very good mortgage interest rate of 1.16%. So the interest accruing on the mortgage isn't that great. Sorry, I mean it's not that high. It's a great interest rate, but it's not a high interest rate. And the overpayment in month one was £490. The idea behind this was I wanted our total mortgage payment to be rounded up to £1,000. As I mentioned, the interest rate was quite low, so only £115 of interest was accrued that month. So that meant that our end balance at the end of January was £116,299, and we managed to knock £885 off the mortgage balance. So we then went into February and we had pretty much an identical month in terms of what we managed to overpay. The benefit of February was because it's a shorter month, so I get charged interest daily on my mortgage, and because there were only 28 days in February 2023, it meant there was a few days less interest accruing, so there was less overall interest accrued that month. And then we got to March, and this is where the wheels started coming off this mortgage plan. The reason for that, and I've talked about this in numerous videos, was I had some expenses in the summer, and these were really great luxury expenses in the summer, going on holiday, having nice experiences, going to concerts that were once in a lifetime experiences. And it cost a lot of money, and so the first month, which was March, I didn't overpay anything. That trend just continued. So you can see in these months here, March, April, and May, the only thing that was coming off the mortgage was my standard payment. So there was no overpayments being made at all. And the end balance was pretty much £400 less than what the starting balance was. So if I don't overpay by anything, £400 naturally goes off the mortgage balance and stays off it. We then got to June and I started thinking, oh, I need to pick up this momentum again. So I overpaid by £25. But then we got to July and August, and I then went on holiday, and thought, actually, I'll use the spends for holiday and I won't overpay my mortgage by anything. I got to a point in August where I was looking at my figures for the previous few months, and I was thinking, how on earth have I went from being someone who was overpaying our mortgage by a considerable amount of money to now not even overpaying by anything? One of the lessons I've learned really about myself is that if I stop the momentum on something, so if I stop overpaying totally, I lose that momentum. I would have been better by overpaying by something, whether that be £1 or £2, because mentally it would have still made me feel like I was making progress. But because I wasn't overpaying by anything, I felt like I'd taken some backward steps, which wasn't a great feeling to have. So then it got to September and I wanted to put my toe into sort of overpaying again. So we overpaid by £90 that month. And then I set it as a commitment myself for the next 2 months. Um, so for October and November, I wanted to match the interest rate. So sorry, match the interest that was accruing on the mortgage. So on average, um, the mortgage is accruing £110 of interest per month. So I wanted to overpay by at least £110. And I managed to do that in October and November. And then we get to December. So at the end of last month, and the last video I posted, the final balance on the mortgage was £111,450. So let me just reveal the figures. So the standard payment came off, and then what I did was because December was a bit of an expensive month, and because I was building up my premium bonds, I only overpaid by £60. And the mission I had set myself was to get to an end balance that would be under the 111,000 bracket. So like basically move past the next £1,000 milestone. So I finished the month with £110,989 left on the mortgage balance. So I've just totted up the total figures below. Um, so as I said, it started with £117,185 at the start of the year. Um, there was £6,000 of standard payments. I overpaid by just under £1,400, and the interest that accrued was just over £1,300. So actually, one good thing about this year was that we managed to overpay by more than the interest that was accrued. And what that means for me is that the standard payments that I make each month, that came directly off the mortgage balance. Um, so you can see here the standard payment, £6,115, and the balance paid off the mortgage. So the money that came off the mortgage and stayed off is £6,196. So that is something that I'll take away and be proud of for this year. So I'll just move. Actually, I'll just move that to the side for the moment. Actually, I'll just delete that box. And just in terms of final figures, so the percentage that was paid off in 2023, so we've went from £117,000 to £110,000, so £6,000 come off the balance. So what proportion of the starting balance has been paid off? It's 5%. And then the total overpayment so far, so this is basically for the past few years where myself and my partner have been overpaying our mortgage, how much in total have we overpaid by? And that is £21,637. So what are my thoughts? Well, the first thought I've got to have is that that overall number is brilliant. The £21,637, I think for me, it's like that the impact of doing things consistently and gradually. So, fair enough, this year, or should I say last year, I didn't overpay consistently every month, but the effort that I did make means that I'm now £21,000 better off than I would have been if I'd sort of spent that money on other things each month. Um, Obviously, this was built up gradually. It would have, if you asked me tomorrow to pull £21,000 out of my pocket and use it as a mortgage overpayment, I wouldn't be able to do it. But actually, if you say to me, right, every few months, I want you to pay a few £100, or I was in a really fortunate position in 2022 where I was sometimes overpaying by £1,000 a month, and that all adds up. But even if you aren't making as significant a contribution, like this year, we overpaid by nearly £1,400. And when you're overpaying by £100 at a time, it may not feel like much, but actually it all adds up. And then over the lifetime of your mortgage, that's potentially, hopefully, saving the amount of interest that your mortgage is accruing. So there's more money in your back pocket, really. So that's the positive. The negative, I guess, is that I really set out in 2022 to overpay by at least £1,000 a month, because my aim is to be mortgage free as quickly as possible, because I want that sense of freedom that'll provide me and my partner. If I flick back to 2022, these were all the figures from 2022. At the end, what it looked like was that the balance I paid off was £15,639, and 12% came off that balance. So, like, 12% of the starting balance in 2022 came off, whereas, you know, it's less than half I managed to knock off this year, and it's only 5% has come off the balance. So there's a bit of disappointment, I've got to admit, with how I've done. And I know some people look at these figures from just this year alone and think, wow, that's amazing that you've managed to knock that amount off. And I am grateful, but there is an element of um, what were my intentions at the start of the year, and did I follow through with them? And I didn't. So I think a lesson for me is to remember that the mortgage overpayments are a really big part of my financial plan. And in terms of how I will view my success with my personal finances, making mortgage overpayments is a key criteria. Sorry about that, I just had a coughing fit. So, what's for 2024? So, I talked about in a previous video, my plan with 2024 is to knock £1,000 off the mortgage balance each month. So, that's what I'm going to plan on doing. That means I need to be overpaying by £600 per month. I can give a spoiler that January is good looking that way. I've already overpaid by £600 this month, and I'll talk more about that on the first video in 2024. So given that I'm seem to be starting to have a coughing fit, I'll wrap up the video here. But just to say, as always, thank you to everyone who tunes into these videos. I've been really enjoying picking back up on this personal finance journey. I'm really positive about 2024. I think, my aim is to have the overall mortgage balance by the end of the year be less than £100,000. So if I can get into the 99,000, it means that the mortgage balance has gone from being in the six figures to being in the five figures. And I think mentally that'll be a huge milestone if I can achieve that. So that's the goal that I'm setting myself. I've got my eyes on the prize. I'm really determined. I'm making hay while the sun shines, and I'm really trying to do the best I can with the money that I'm making in my day job. But yeah, I've got plenty more videos coming this year. I've started a podcast series which gets posted on my channel. So do check that out, and I'll see you on the next video.